Equinox. Chapter 1. Prologue. If you look hard enough, there's the galaxy, bellows the naive 6-year-old in my memory. He's quite the charming lad, if a little active, and takes fondly to his older brother, an engineer and friend to any and all. The little one yells once more to his parents, all three of them staring in front of a very loud television set. The news stations were livid. Our proud nation eagerly awaits the return of the first men in all of history to have set foot beyond the red moon. "There he is!" screams the child, as the camera pans to a bright-eyed, short-haired young man, reassuring those present on site that the descent and retrieval would go safe and sound, just as predicted. Both parents exchanged loving, proud glances at each other. Their boy had made the family name proud. Minutes go by, and the retrieval craft is seen on the horizon. "It's here! They came back from space!" screams the child. People everywhere are ecstatic. And rightfully so. This is the very first time man has been able to complete a full spacewalk on the dark end of the asteroid belt, thousands of miles past the grand old red moon, Mars. The craft makes a curious, booming noise as it slaps down onto the face of the sea. Parachutes deployed right on time. But, lo, the television set just shuts off, and so do all of the lights. There's a power cut. It could not have chosen a better time to screw things, thinks the boy to himself. Likewise, his parents share in his displeasure and start grumbling amongst themselves. His father gets off the couch, steps out onto the back porch, and yells at their neighbors, asking for some help. No answer comes, mostly because these were a closeted, xenophobic bunch of people surrounding our joyous trio, even racist to some extent. And to add salt to the wound, it was a lad from these outsiders' filth that had suddenly gone from a nobody to a household name. For shame! Not to be fazed by the lack of any cordial assistance, the father strides back in and decides to make a phone call, albeit secretly. He had not yet told his family that his eldest, in spite of heavy restrictions, maintained constant communication with him. He was a proud father back when his eldest got drafted into the country's most prominent space research program, and he sure hadn't misplaced his pride now. Maneuvering stealthily back into his house, he pulls out a shoddy little cell phone and dials a curious phone number. Beaming with anticipation and, remarkably, anger, he swears under his breath as the call goes unanswered. This goes on for a while, until he gives up and eventually returns to his wife and son in the living room. The child turns to him, a look of dismay across both faces. He sighs, then turns to the TV. But suddenly, there is a dread in the room. He turns to his parents, hoping that they might have noticed something as well. But no, they did not. The child gets up on his feet, and his father suddenly jumps up. The cell phone in his pocket rings aloud, and the man, breathless, fumbles, hurriedly picking up the call. As if on cue, the power comes back on, and the television set roars back to life, the fearful child standing right in front of it. And he stares. He stares into the television set, and he stares into the frenzied face of a bright-eyed, short-haired young man, holding a phone in one hand and a gun on the other. He holds the gun straight to his head, eyes frenzied. Moments fly by, more like centuries to the lad. and he stares into the face of his brother. He stares madness right in the eyes, and witnesses a life blown out in a flash of iron. Thus the child falls, and I wake up, shivering, cold, a chill down my bone, as the nightmare from ages past sweeps me by. I woke before, and I wake again from my nightmare, knowing all too well the aftertaste it always leaves behind. 24 years, and you still won't let me sleep properly, I muse, thinking how I'd spent the better half of 2 decades being haunted by the utter collapse of my family. Everybody I'd called my own, dead and burned to cinders. And yet, here I am, dreading every waking moment that I live without them. Why, you ask? Well, they're all a bunch of unforgiving folk, never ken to realizing the extent of their ire. But, you might ask, they're all dead. Are they not? Well, and truly, yes. The very last vestige of the people I'd call family died years ago. But then, it's as they say, isn't it? What is dead may never truly die. You have been listening to Chapter 1, Prologue of Equinox, an original story by Frantic Phantom. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you again next week with another episode of Phantom Reads. Ladies and gentlemen, I bid you a good evening. Farewell.